It has been a roller coaster of a season for your Seattle Storm. We are going to do some reporting on the big news and then also break down how the team has fared in their last handful of games back in the win column, but still plenty to do. Roberta F. Rodriguez and Erica L. Ayala coming up on a new episode of Tempestade Talk.
You have three people who are selfless like that, three people who are dangerously disciplined like that, and you have a coach that also embodies all of those characteristics. You can expect good basketball.
I love interacting with the fans. I'm excited for them to cheer for us because it's hell when you come here. I even welcome people that could be skeptical because it's new.
There's going to be a standard of excellence and discipline in everything that we do.
The Pacific Northwest, this area, how passionate they are. It's culture everywhere, but it's great culture here. That's what I want to be a part of, to compete for a championship. That's everybody's goal. And I think it's just how we go about things and habits that we create. I want to be around winners that'll help us get closer to that.
And that's what the fans can expect. And we're going to have some fun.
All right, women's basketball fans, welcome to another episode of Tempestade Talk. We are part of the Black Rosie Media Podcast Network lineup. As I mentioned, my name is Erica L. Ayala, your host, co-host here, as well as the co-host of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, alongside the waving Roberta Rodriguez, who is our co-host, also the founder of Beta Basket. Roberta, how you feeling?
You know, it is, I think, 80-something degrees in Seattle. We feel summer coming, and it is a great time to be in Seattle. It's Pride Month, so
yes, happy
lots
Pride.
of Pride things happening around town. I feel like Seattle is starting to get into like peak, good season. Very exciting. How about you? You've been everywhere.
I have been, and we were just talking a little bit before we hopped online that it has gotten warmer here now in Oklahoma. I was just in Oklahoma City for a few days for the Women's College World Series. Great series. The last game, even though it was a ridiculous score, still had some drama. Texas Tech, very curious to see what they're going to look like next year. But I drove home because I live in headquarters here is in Tulsa. And I drove home. I took a little rest, at a gas station because it was late night. I had been working all day. And I started seeing the lightning. And you know how you can like count the lightning down to see how close it was. And I'm like trying to rest. I'm like, Erica, like you need to just get some rest. You don't want to drive tired because that's a whole problem. But I kept like seeing visibly that the lightning was getting very close to me.
Oh my God, that's so scary.
I got to hit the road. And we were saying, I've driven through hurricanes in the East Coast. Not quite the same as a storm that rolls through for tornado season in Oklahoma. But we're here.
Are you a twister hunter? How they call it? The tornado, like storm hunter? How do you call that?
I was not hunting. I was definitely being chased. But I remembered something that I heard, which I really loved, which I thought of more so as a metaphor at the time, but now I've literally experienced that they say that buffalo or bison, when they see a storm coming, instead of trying to outrun the storm, they run through the storm because obviously the storm is going to go the other way. So if you run through the storm, you get through it quicker. So I just kept that in my mind.
I have never thought about that.
Isn't that great? I just love that image. It's so like, again, metaphorically, I loved it. And then I physically experienced it. I was like, be like a buffalo, be like a buffalo, be like a buffalo.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of storms.
See how
I did? See how I did that?
Yeah. It's your favorite thing.
Speaking of storms, been a few storms brewing, Roberta, for the Seattle Storm. We are, of course, going to talk about their recent win. That is the upside. We're definitely going to talk about Gabby Williams, who has been the brightest spot for the Seattle Storm organization. But we have to start with the news. I want to start with the Li Yueru news. Then we also heard something about a coaching investigation. We'll get into that. But let's start with Li, because I know that especially when the news first broke, there was a lot of or I should say, honestly, there was a lack of information. We hadn't heard from Li before, obviously, the initial reporting. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to anchor now that we've had a few days. We know a little bit more about the situation. But of course, it was reported that Li Yueru has requested a trade from the Seattle Storm. And what can you say, Roberta, about when the news came out? Because I know you were following up with your own independent reporting. What would you share with listeners and viewers about what was going on when we first heard the news? And what are some of the updates that we know since the news has broke?
Yeah, it's a very nuanced situation, and there's a lot of cultural aspects that need to be taken into consideration here. Li Yueru and her representatives did ask for a trade from the Seattle Storm. The main reason being she's not getting enough playtime. And she really isn't getting a lot of play, but it's not an indicative of her basketball. It's an indicative of how the Seattle Storm is, right? But we're going to get to that later. She requested a trade through her representatives. And what I found through talking to sources, and this came from multiple sources, this is a decision that China made. China made that decision. Again, different culture, completely different world, completely regime. Everything in China is state commanded. The state owns everything.
Yes.
And that includes sporting. That includes, federations are always a government thing. So, but in China's case, it's even the state control is larger than we're ever gonna know being Western citizens. So.
Yeah. And I want to just stop there because what you're saying is huge. You talk about a cultural difference, and I want to just talk historically. There's actually a great 30 for 30. I believe it was part of the 9 for 9 series. They did nines, and actually Neko Gumike and I think was in one of those. The Williams sisters were in there anyway. But there is a 949 that was, I believe, around the 40th or 45th anniversary of Title IX. And they talk about Russian figure skater. I forget her name right now, but there's a prominent Russian figure skaters, like I think late 70s, early 80s. There have been tennis players from the Chinese Federation who have grown up, as you said, in sport, or you alluded to it. But let's break it down, though. I just want to offer this historical background. In places like Russia and China, those two most prominently, when you grow up in a state-controlled sports academy, effectively, it's not just that, we see like pay to play in the United States and there's these elite level travel teams. No. These athletes are literally growing up in like these sports camp kind of environments. They get all of their tutoring done. They live in government housing and they train in their respective sport from a young age. And, I think things have changed over time, but that's, again, the historical context. We've seen athletes in the past want to be emancipated from those because it comes down to everything to whether they can do TV appearances, certain TV appearances and things of that nature. So when you say this is something that came from her national team, if you know the history and the context of athletes in places like China and Russia, it is not at all far-fetched to understand the level of control that the federation feels it can have over its athletes. Not to mention the control that they do have and that they act upon. But like you said, That's not what we're used to in the United States at that level.
Yeah, and this is something that we talk a lot about, Russia and China, but the national team culture outside of the US is so big that when a player decides not to play for their national team, it is big news, and it means something. So, for example, Camila and Damiris are going to play for Brazil during the America Cup. If they didn't, people would look at them differently. But when we're talking about Russia and China, completely different, complete state control. Athletes don't really have much, if any, say on their careers.
Right.
And Li announced that she was not defending China during Asia Cup. So China was under the impression that she was going to have more solid minutes here in the US. And when we look at her numbers, she's playing 8.7 minutes per game this year, which is significantly less than 2024. That was 14.4. So I believe that the Chinese Federation was under the impression that she was going to have more minutes, which is it's a very unrealistic expectation when you think about the team that she's playing for and the roster that she's in, considering her position. When you have such a go on.
I'm sorry. I want to stay there for a second. Also, we have Tulip in the house. Hello, and Moni.
Hey, hi everyone.
What's going on? We appreciate you joining us. But I want to stick there because this is something that we've talked about. The Li Yueru trade, of course, came with the 3-team trade that moved Jewel Lloyd to Las Vegas, moved Kelsey Plum to the Sparks. Li comes to Seattle. I didn't know much about Li's game, and that's on me, right? Knew of the player, but I usually default with a very few exception to what I'm seeing in the WNBA. That's a North American gaze, Gaze. But hey, gaze.
Yes, ally.
I do my best. Hey, Aloysius.
You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Okay, jokes aside. When you look through the lens gaze of the lens of the United States, it is a very, and I understand this, I'm aware of this, I try to be very open to it. You miss sometimes the impact that a player that has national team experience, which we were just talking about with Li, that's true. And I think what's also true is, similarly to what we see in the NCAA to the WNBA, not all international talent translates well into the WNBA game. That's not to say that they're not an elite level talent, because some people would be like, if you don't play for the United States, you're not elite. Okay, relax.
They could chill pill.
Helped the New York Liberty win a championship in overtime. Don't at me, or you can, and I will eviscerate your comments because they're not the point is that there is a little bit of a different way to approach your game, and the best players are able to make that transition. It goes the same. You say this about Stewie, right? How she might be the national player.
That's still my opinion. Still my opinion.
That doesn't take away from what Asia Wilson is doing as arguably, if not arguably, the best WNBA player. But you used this term earlier, there is nuance there. And so before we break that down, before we go deeper, I just wanted to break that down, because for me, I hear what you're saying regarding fit. We have talked about for a while now that this is a little bit of a questionable roster construction, right?
Exactly.
We knew that. I think what's also true, though, is that given how things have been playing out, and given that we knew that this coaching staff was going to have to find minutes for Dominique Malunga and for Li Yueru. Definitely.
Yep.
You know what I'm going to say. I've been saying
I
it.
do know what you're going to say. Yeah.
You have to get your number 2 pick minutes. Not
Yeah.
to mention that this is an Olympian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earned silver in
Yeah.
Paris, France. But then you add another international talent that I think, can find minutes for. That's what I thought in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of the season. I didn't know how
Yeah.
much. And now I kind of still feel that way. It hasn't been consistent. We're going to break that down for the Seattle Storm. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I do think, especially given what you just said about Lee committing to the
Yeah.
Seattle Storm, Dominique Malunga committing to the Seattle Storm in a year that,
Mm-hmm.
if we were to prioritize, Olympics, World Cup, Eurobasket, there's a rank and file there, but it's still a
Yeah.
part of that circuit. It's a part of the Olympic cycle.
Yeah.
And to have these players now saying they're not going to do that, they're going to stay with the
Yeah.
WNBA and still not find the minutes, that's tough.
It is. It is very tough. And I think it is part of the issue of what happened. This is like a result of how the Storm had to construct this roster.
Yep.
There were lots of there were two very unexpected situations that greatly impacted the team. First off, Jewel Lloyd trade. That was not in the books. That was not expected. They were not counting on losing an all-star shooting guard who has helped the team to 2 championships. So there was that. And then there was that, known expectation that Olivia Miles was going to declare for the draft. And then once Jewel Lloyd left, the Storm could replace a number 2 starter to Jewel Lloyd. That didn't happen. They already had Li Yueru during draft. They already had Li Yueru, Neko Gumake, Ezi Magbegor. They already had 3 really good post players. Who was the best option available at number 2 at the draft? A generational post player. So I would say that they almost had their hands tied because you can't pass Dominique Malonga. You just can't. It's a player that you need to keep. But something's gonna have to give, and that's what we're seeing happening. So how would Li Yueru fit that roster? I think that we saw a way that she could find more minutes by looking into what happened the last home game against Dallas when she hit 2 long distance shots. I feel like that's one way that she could earn more minutes.
Just want to
when
say,
you have Gabby,
we see that you're here. Thanks for stopping in. And yep, you can always catch up with the recording.
Yeah. So I think that it's a very tough situation because honestly, I don't think there is playtime for Lee in the Seattle Storm. She has had some playtime, but the Storm is starting to figure out how to play. They found a really good way to play Skylar Diggins, Erica Wheeler, and Gabby Williams. They figured out the backcourt.
Yes.
And they also have Neko Gumake killing in the post, and you have Ezi, who is starting to pick up, and Dominique Malonga coming into the game from the bench really well. So for you to fit Li Yueru there, who hasn't been as consistent as Dominic, it puts her in a very complicated situation. It puts the Seattle Storm in a complicated situation in which they are going to have to keep some of their really good post players in the bench and give them less minutes. Yeah. And it is also true that Li Yueru did forego playing Asia Cup to stay with the Seattle Storm. And the Federation had this expectation that she was going to have more minutes. And as you were saying, Erika, for national teams, it's a big deal when a player doesn't go back. And one thing that I said for people to understand is that when you look at the Seattle Storm roster, Li Yueru is not the star. she's not the main player. Well, who are you going to rank the Storm players in terms of importance? And not importance as like we're talking about in terms of like role.
Right.
So Li Yueru is not even close to being top 5, top 6. For the Chinese team, she's number 1. So that's the part that people that the nuance, the cultural part of it that WNBA fans need to understand and not make this more than it is, because, and then we're going to get to that at some point. There was a lot of noise around the Storm this offseason. There is noise now, but this is not about the Seattle Storm organization. This is Li Yueru, China, and globalization and culture in basketball.
Absolutely. We see Moni has to run too, but Leslie, Moni, we always appreciate you hopping in when we're live. Absolutely. We look forward to you letting us know what you think after you listen to the full session. We definitely will talk a little bit more about Sky. And I like this about Erica as well. We've talked so much about the two, so we will incorporate that for sure coming up a little bit later in the episode. But so much of what you said is really interesting. I also want to go to something Tulip had posted a little earlier. He is a serial trade requester. Again, how much of that is Li herself? It doesn't seem like a lot comparative to her national federation. Seems like that's overwhelmingly where this is coming from.
Yeah.
We also heard her talk on CBS, actually, that Nneka Ogwumike is not only her favorite teammate or her favorite basketball player, she is her favorite women's athlete of all time. So to think that Li would want to step away from that only if it was fully up to her. However, the minutes, you broke it down so beautifully, Howard, that we knew this was going to be a challenge. And this is where we're at. Before we get into our second quarter, we do want to talk a little bit about some other news. I put it in here because to me, it just doesn't seem, Roberta, like, especially we were originally going to record Thursday or Friday, excuse me. And then the World Series went to 3 games, the Women's College World Series. So we pushed our recording back. But we were also hearing that
Sorry, my dog's barking.
That's okay. I love doggies. We were also hearing that there was an investigation, regarding the coaching staff. And I want to get into that, but it seems like this is live, people. In real time, Roberta has some updates that she wants to share, some feedback that she got from Li Yueru's camp.
Yeah, so I saw an update on X today that there were 4 teams interested in Li. What I am hearing from official people is that they haven't heard about the 4-team interest. There are about 2 teams that have shown some interest on her. So teams want her, perhaps Connecticut. What I'm hearing is that maybe Connecticut or the Valkyries. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that Connecticut needs her a lot. And I think she would fit the Valkyries well, especially with the internationality that they have. And they're going to lose so many players for continental tournaments. I think she would do really well. But what I'm hearing is that the 4 teams is a little unfunded, and there seems like there is an interest from 2 teams. So that's what we have.
Yeah. So you're clearing up that we've heard that there's been 4 teams of interest, but our very own Roberta Rodriguez, as well as from Beta Basket, is reporting that 4 teams seems a little bit much from the reports that you're hearing, that it's more like 2, and that Golden State and Connecticut could be places where potentially, or where there is interest. And I think if we look at those teams, first of all,
I know what we're going to talk about.
Okay. We will also get into this tomorrow on Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. But first of all, As someone who is the co-host there, I am going to get off these jokes because I am old enough to remember when the big conversation from Kelsey Plumdog herself was that the New York Liberty just didn't love one another enough.
Ooh.
And I don't know.
Great times.
from
It was
hearing-
one of the best days in WNBA. It was some of the best
I'm
things
glad
that ever happened.
I'm glad you were having a great time. That was not a great day for me personally. And I like Kelsey Plum, still do. I also will call out that comment. And, you know, people are saying now, oh, well, they were called out for not loving each other enough. And look at them now. Okay, let's not do that, people. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is a convenient narrative. Don't do that.
Yep.
Don't do that. Let I don't know. Maybe it's like it's kind of hard to love, like, or even communicate with people that were just together for a few months. Like, okay, I'm sorry. Maybe that's what was going on. But like, I didn't appreciate they don't love each other. But I am pulling receipts because now the Valkyries, which I will also say this, I have never thought the Valkyries were just going to be some punk expansion team. They have drafted some people with heart. Now, are they going to be the highest scorers in the WNBA, MVP caliber? Who's to say? Probably not. But what they do have is moxie. And Kayla Thornton, Kate Martin. And so I don't want to say that the Vegas Aces being punked by Valkyries is all about the Aces not loving each other. Although, I mean, again, pulling receipts. If it works for one team, why can't we say it against another? But seriously, my true analysis is that this is a Valkyries team that you cannot, or I should say, you can overlook them at your own risk.
Yes.
And if you, Aces, don't have your life together to the point where your head coach is saying, well, I can't coach effort, then you're going to lose. And you know what?
It sounds like something.
Exactly. I'm glad because Leslie put this in Slack. So I want you to take it from there.
So you said you can coach effort. We saw Noelle Quinn talking about that last season because that was an issue that the Seattle Storm was having. Let me put my train of thought back because I think you know where I'm getting.
I do. And I'm glad you're going there because, again, Leslie, I know Leslie had to hop off, but we'll watch this again. So, Leslie, we are giving you your credit, all of the flowers. You definitely were like, hey, didn't we hear that from Seattle last year? And I'm just going to connect the dots so you don't have to. Who was on the Seattle team last year who effort couldn't be coached? And who's on the Vegas team this year where effort cannot be coached? Now, am I saying those two things are related? I don't know. Because unlike Kelsey Plumdog in 2023, I'm not going to speak on someone else's locker room when I'm not in that locker room.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying,
it makes sense.
Anyone who knows the W can make those equations. We have talked about this. I just want to preface, we have talked about this before. There are so many reasons why a person can visibly, emotionally, cognitively be checked out. So I am not at all looking, although I got my jokes off, and I did see Tulip saying, leave Plumdog alone. I do love Plumdog. I will not let her cook. I will not let her cook on those comments. You know, they say a clock is right. A broken clock is right twice a day. That means that even a working clock can be wrong. Okay. That's all I have to say about that. And she was wrong for that. Like, that's hella rude. That was rude.
It was rude. And I think that I don't think that it's like Vegas, they don't like each other. I think that there was an expectation. And the expectation is not being met. Okay, we know head coach Noelle Quinn was talking about how there was no effort last year. And then Becky Hammond said something, you said in the same lines. And we're seeing what is the common factor there. Jewel Lloyd. What is another thing that is bleeding into this season? Jewel Lloyd is not shooting well. She is not, although Becky Hammond did compliment her three-point shooting. She is shooting over 40% from the three-point line, but on the other end, she's not on the other shots. That's not that's not happening. So thinking about everything that happened in the off season, taking into consideration this other investigation, which has been confirmed that a former Seattle Storm player complained that a Seattle Storm assistant coach cursed at a Vegas player during or after the game, something like that. There are things we cannot connect the dots. That's like, as journalists, as people who go and talk to sources and investigate and tell stories, you can't not connect the dots,
Right.
because
Right.
it is something that happened and is happening. And there's the podcast situation where Jewel was trashing the team. It seems like, people can say that I'm a hater, whatever, call me a hater. This is like an informed opinion, just like, you got what you wanted. You're playing for the Las Vegas Aces. You're playing with Asia Wilson. You're playing with Becky Hammond. Like, go, like, play basketball. Not shut up and dribble. That's not the case. But like, creating these situations and throwing people under the bus, it's not a mature thing to do. And I know that people are not gonna like that I'm saying that. I know.
Thank you very much. We appreciate
it. So like, the thing is that, like, people can say that, I'm a hater or whatever. There's something that's called, like, in journalism, we say things as they are. Yes. And what is happening is that there seems like a Jewel Lloyd crusade against the Seattle Storm, and it doesn't look good. And about the investigation, there people are, oh, it's not an investigation. They are looking into it. They are looking into it. They don't want to. The truth is that the league does not want to call it an investigation. Why don't they want to call it an investigation? My opinion is that there has been too many investigations lately. Another one would be too much. But they were looking into the complaint. You know?
And there have been a lot of proper investigations relating to both teams involved. Seattle and Las Vegas. But I mean, what? Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just like,
no. I'm ramping up for another rant. I don't remember if it was
go
this episode or this podcast or Gotta Get Up, or maybe it was when all three of us were on the mic together. But remember when I did my epic rant and I said semantics?
Yes.
I had to step away from the mic so I'm not yelling and busting out your eardrums. Semantics.
Yes, exactly.
Because, the word investigation, the action of investigating something or someone, formal or systematic examination or research.
Amen. Oh my God. Like, and you're gonna call that not an investigation because you don't want it to be a certain look. Like, I want to give my flowers to Christina Williams for putting the news out first and standing on her report, because at the end of the day, everyone confirmed what Christina reported. So people want to call that looking into it, call that not an investigation. The truth is there was a complaint. The league was talking to people, examining things, especially when you consider that this team had an investigation against them on the coaching staff, and this complaint was against someone in the coaching staff. So that's potato, whatever they want to call it, there was a complaint. The league is looked into it, investigated, and did investigate. They didn't release anything, but they did say that we saw a report that there are going to be no fines or suspensions. So one can assume that, like, they found nothing.
I mean, semantics. Like, okay, I'm definitely lean more pro union when it comes to athletes, especially women's sports leagues. if you have a league that has a process for how to deal with when a complaint is made, and that league allegedly, right, because words matter and I'm not trying to get sued, if allegedly the league is not willing to stand on business, I have so many questions. This is language, and we talked about this in Slack. Should you be cursing people out that you used to work with? Absolutely not. In any other professional environment, you would be considered unprofessional. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100%. Now, I have a lot of things to say, and sometimes I do say them about people that I used to work with. And I know that if and when I start if I start cursing them out, even if my feelings, my investigations, and my accounts are valid, there is a line, especially once you leave a place. Now, listen, where that line is, what it is very hazy. And you run the risk of being deemed unprofessional, sour grapes, petty, all of these things. It just becomes a part of the narrative when you opt to use certain language to basically, I mean, cursing people out is disrespectful. Like, I think we all know that. I think we also all know that curse words, if there was a stat for how many F-bombs we hear in professional sport, it would be charts.
Poor Marina Mabry.
Right? Like, you know, like if they really enforced, oh no, you said a 4-letter word. Shambles. They would have to increase salaries just so that the players can put lines alone. Okay.
It reminds me of when I don't know if it was I think Kia Nurse was Mike, and Skylar Diggins did say a profanity next to her. Like, I think that the whole investigation thing is like, okay, someone alleged that something was said.
Yes.
They're apart. Did that actually happen?
Right.
If that happened, what is the context?
Right.
Was that really towards a player? Was that towards the player that triggered a previous investigation? So I think that's where because it's not just like it didn't happen. Because
or it wasn't substantiated, because racism that happens to WNBA players for some reason is never substantiated.
Oh my God.
But again,
no,
semantics. This is what, and now I'm talking a little bit outside of Vegas. I'm talking outside of Seattle. I'm talking about the league. And there are semantics. There are optics that are happening now that don't make me feel like there is a concerted effort to do the no hate in whatever.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah. Like, because like, you need to take these things seriously. If it's an investigation, if it walks like an investigation, if it quacks like an investigation, it's an investigation. Why wouldn't you want your players to know that you are investigating their teams? That's exactly why they made it, because they want you to investigate it. And you're worried about what media are going to say. They're going to say it anyway. They're going to say it anyway. But now you have media members like me that are talking about the league, because the league allegedly is too afraid to say that they're investigating something because of the optics. Also, how do you think that makes players feel?
Exactly. It's not you made a complaint, but we're not investigating it. We're just looking into it.
Maybe you're just overreacting. Like, you know, eat a banana and sit outside and you'll be fine. Also, shout out to Kate Freeze, because that was for you, babe. You know why. That was for you. Anyway, Kate Freeze, amazing photographer working with the Phoenix Mercury. Highly recommend checking her out. Come on. Just say what it is. Just say what it is. Don't be shy. What? You're focused so much on your investors and language that's going to make them angry, or the optics, because you don't want a freaking someone who really doesn't care as much about this league, like Pat what is his name? Pat McCaffrey, whatever.
McAfee. I don't know. Blonde.
Pat or SAS to go on a rant about your league. Well, now you've got me. Now you've got me doing it.
Honestly, it's the league should be more concerned about you than Pat and SAS. I would be like, if I were the league, I would be like, let me clear things with Eric Ayala to make sure that, because
like just do the investigation. And again, this is allegedly, this is what we're hearing reports, and we talked about it. We talked about this in Slack, and I want to mention it here because I think it makes a lot of sense. This is a podcast. Podcasts by nature, and quite honestly, what we're starting to see with sports radio, I mean, always sports radio and sports programming, they're entertainment, right?
Yes.
This is entertainment. And there are some of us who are not solely entertainers. We are reporters. We are journalists who happen to come together and have a podcast where we can let our hair down, figuratively speaking, my hair is all chopped. We can let our hair down. We can have fun. We can lean into the fun and the ridiculousness of it. But there comes a time, and you mentioned this, where we are still journalists. And it behooves us to, again, make note that there's an investigation. The investigation happened when the Aces were in town playing the Seattle Storm. Former Seattle Storm player Jewel Lloyd now on the Las Vegas Aces. Also, we're hearing all of this. We had a similar conversation from a head coach last year, can't coach effort. A head coach this year, can't coach effort. And there is a common denominator. And I think it's fair to say that we cannot, I don't know how you blame the culture or lack thereof for the Vegas Aces, if that's what's happening. I don't know how you blame that on one player. However, and some of y'all are not going to like this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I believe in being warm and truthful. I do think that it's hard to put whatever cultural issues are happening with Vegas on Jewel Lloyd. I said that mostly 100%. I wanted to get my clap back on Kelsey Plum. Love her, hated what she said. I was mostly joking. What I will say, and this is what y'all are not gonna like, if you can see that blaming bad culture of the Vegas Aces in this moment, if you can see that blaming that culture on Jewel Lloyd joining the team is a little ridiculous, then I'm trying to understand how some of y'all didn't understand that about Skylar.
Ooh. Oh, I feel like I need to get up now. Wow. I hadn't thought about that.
Hello?
I had not thought about that. And that is so true, because people always blame Skylar Diggins as the problem, because they say, oh, everywhere she goes, something happens. And then we're seeing that with another player. And again, that's not to say that she is the problem with Vegas, because we already saw a very different Las Vegas Aces last year from the previous one. We saw Kelsey Plum leave. We saw other players leave. So Jewel Lloyd is not the problem. Las Vegas is going through an identity crisis. They're trying to figure them out. And there is an issue that was pointed by the Vegas coach, that was also pointed by the Seattle coach.
These are all true. You know what's also true is that sometimes, what's also true is that sometimes, whether we want to admit it or not, whether athletes wish it were true or not, you lack motivation at your job. It happens. Yep. Mm-hmm. It happens. I mean, I cover the Seattle Kraken. We're all season with a lack of motivation. All freaking season.
Yeah.
Y'all getting these checks or not? Like, are we good, fam? Like, what's going on?
Exactly. Like, what other money?
My point is, I'm not here to villainize Jewel Lloyd. I'm not
here
to
villainize
Skylar Diggins Smith. I'm not here to villainize Becky Hammon or Noelle Quinn. Now, each one of those people that I have mentioned have been part of a investigation of some sort, whether it was a true investigation or investigation, whatever your subjects are.
A capital Y investigation or a lowercase I investigation.
Right. Who knows? But
and I think,
and what we, Roberta, have always tried to do is make sure that we offer as many different scenarios as possible, given the
Yes.
facts and information that we have.
Yes, exactly. And what I like to say is that it's not because we're saying something negative that we are something that's not positive about a player that we're being negative towards them. And I feel like fan culture does not help with that understanding, because if you don't say something positive, or if you say something something that someone did that was negative, they call you a hater. So do it, but that's not what it is. It's
No.
being direct and objective, which that is respecting women's sports and women's basketball. We're not going to sugarcoat.
Absolutely
Sugarcoat. We're not going to be, oh, that's cute. No.
No, absolutely not.
We have to talk about these players in the WNBA as athletes, the same way we criticize NBA players, we criticize football players, we have to criticize WNBA players.
Yeah.
And it's part of respecting women. It's part of supporting women's sports. You can't, they are not kids.
No,
we're not going to patronize them.
Children, we are not going to infantilize them. They are not a monolith. They can handle, whether they appreciate it or not, they can handle the fact that there are nuanced conversations. Now, how they respond and react, we can't control that. But what we can do is lay out the foundation. This is interesting. And we hit on this a few episodes ago, because we were talking about how if you ask Sue Bird in her new podcast, which I love, Bird's Eye View,
she
really has no doubt that Jewell Loyd is a perennial, beloved, iconic piece to Seattle Storm legacy. That's what Sue Bird effectively believes. Now, whether other people believe this, and you reported because you were at that game where Loyd returned for the first time, and it sounded like from what you were experiencing that there was a little bit of like a maybe hesitation to embrace her fully, confusion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a player that is, trashing the franchise every opportunity she has. So fans are upset. I think that Jewell Loyd will always be a part of the Storm glory year, the Storm's golden ages. And she's always going to be, always going to be appreciated. And fans can also feel a certain way. And again, that's not to put both in the same level, but think of LeBron when he left Cleveland. Fans got very upset. He came back and they love him. He left and they love him. So that is something that happens and it fluctuates. So they can do, like, that's something that both can be true. Again, there is a certain like hurt against Jewell Loyd. There was a sign that said if you purchased a Jewell loyalty shirt last season, you are entitled to financial compensation. Hashtag Team Noel. So there are people who are very hurt about how Jewell Loyd did things and how she continues to do things, especially since her basketball has not been the best. I think it would be different if, she was scoring, I don't know what she's scoring now, but if she was shooting over 50 and, scoring 30 per game, I think that would be like, when you end a relationship and you want, you low key don't want your ex to be doing like great, So I think I feel that because she's not doing so good, and she's still trying to throw the Storm under the bus, people are upset about it, and Storm fans are picking up on it. The difference was clear as day when Stewie came back, when Jade Melvin came back, when all of the other players came back. There were like some, like for Jewell Loyd, there were some like shy applauses. Cheryl Swoops was there. There was a standing ovation for Cheryl Swoops.
Ooh.
What Jewell Loyd got was not close to it. And
Wow.
yeah, so
I mean, Cheryl,
and again, yeah.
I mean, hello, y'all know how I feel.
Oh, yeah.
You already know.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. But I mean, Cheryl did play in Seattle. So
She did. She did. Yeah, she did. But Jewel Lloyd won 2 championships with them. And she was part of the big 3. So I think that there is some hurt. There is hurt in there, but she is still very much appreciated. She has very loyal fans. I think it's that part of like, again, the breakup process of like, you're very hurt and they're like, okay, hurt is part of the process. And then you continue.
Not related to what you were saying at all, but this made me laugh out loud. Erica, I have a small qualm with you, darling.
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 Darling. Oh my God. Here we go. So it's going to be like, goodbye.
Darling. You gave Golden Girl too much credit, even injury aside. He and Asia were front runners for MVP on a talent, statistical, and performance basis. I'm with you. I mentioned that because the Golden Girl, for those who maybe are not putting the pieces together, Caitlin Clark is not my pick for MVP. You can go to cbssports.com and you can see who I picked versus who some of the other people on our writing staff picked. I have never said Caitlin Clark would be MVP. I do think it's fair to say that she will be a part of MVP conversations moving forward. That to me doesn't mean she wins MVP. That doesn't even mean that she's top 10 in MVP, top 3 in MVP, top 10 maybe, but top 3 in MVP, conversations. But people have odds out that she will be an MVP. So it's always going to be a topic of conversation. But I have said what I had to say. She ain't winning MVP this year. And a lot of people think Asia's winning MVP. She ain't
Have
winning.
y'all seen Afisa Collier?
She ain't winning. Fee is MVP. Fee is MVP. Yep. I've said it. MVP.
What do you think? What about Jonko? Where do you think Jonko Jones is in that conversation?
Jones needs to get more respect. She should have better odds to win MVP than Caitlin Clark.
Yes, I 100% agree.
And if we want to keep it a buck, and I said this last year and I'll say it again, if you have spent the overwhelming majority of your sports watching life saying best team, best player, then the only choices at this juncture for MVP are Nafisa Collier and Jonquel Jones.
I 100% agree with you. I am there with you. I know she had only 3 points last game, but like she's the only player averaging a double-double.
I don't condone, never have, best player, best team is the MVP. Yeah. I've never said that. Some people have. Y'all know who you are, and I know who you are too. Some people have said that. But then A'ja Wilson won MVP on the 4th best team at the end of the season, because they were not always the 4th best team.
No,
when
they
people
were not.
Were saying she was the undeniable MVP. And see, some of y'all gonna take this as A'ja Wilson hate. I ain't got no beef with A'ja. I have a huge beef with people who all of a sudden changed the goal line.
Yeah.
Because there are players who were not on the best team that absolutely should have been MVP in this league.
Yep.
And A'ja Wilson is one of them, but far from the first.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I don't know. But yeah.
Big first quarter there for us.
Yeah, I know. The first quarter that lasted 2 whole basketball games.
Yeah.
2 whole basketball games. So there you go. But coming up, we are actually going to talk about the Seattle Storm team, the things that are working, aka Gabby Williams, the things that are not working, aka Essie McMagor. Baby, what's going on?
Oh man, that makes me so sad.
The free throw, like we're going to talk about her as a whole, but the free throws are popping off the page and not in the way we want. Not in the way we want. We're going to talk about that. First, though, I'm going to talk to you about, we mentioned this, you did, in relation to me, hopefully always being in allyship with the Pride community, but we also want to let you know allyship is a great truly Ally, now the official bank of the WNBA, but also the official bank here of Black Rosie Media. Now, they announced this partnership earlier. They brought in addition to their partnership with the Las Vegas Aces, Paige Beckers, Brianna Stewart, and Sydney Colson. They helped run the campaign announcing that Ally Bank was going to be there. This is what Paige has to say about Ally Bank. As an athlete, I've learned that success isn't just about the game you play, but the opportunity and resources you get access to. Ally's commitment to helping more people make smart, informed banking decisions aligns with my own values, and I'm excited to use my platform to help other people feel confident in using the savings buckets to organize and achieve their savings goals. I can speak from personal experience. Again, Black Rosie Media, we have an Ally Bank account, and the savings buckets are amazing. I use this to see if we're on target for Milano Cortina 2026, which of course is a huge investment that Black Rosie Media makes to cover the Olympics, and the Ally buckets, where I can allocate certain money from our budget every year with just a quick click, set it up one time, and it's good to go. I love it. So if you are looking for a new bank, or you want to bank not only responsibly, but bank with an organization and a company that is supporting the WNBA and used by us at Black Rosie Media, we have a referral code for you to use. Open your Ally Bank account today. You can do a checking account, savings account. Check it out for sure. All right, Ally Bank, official bank of the WNBA and Black Rosie Media. Let's talk about, though, what's not quite money in the bank for the Seattle Storm. Noticeably, rebounding has been atrocious.
Yeah.
It really looks like, if the Toon squad from the original Space Jam, I've never seen the other one, although Neko is in that. I haven't seen it. But, like when they steal the powers, I think that maybe someone stole the rebounding powers from everyone on the Seattle Storm except for Gabby Williams, maybe. It's not great. And it's more so the boxing out. Boxing out drives me wild, or the lack thereof. But that's an effort. Mm-hmm. That's a focus thing. And so we haven't heard Noelle Quinn exactly go all the way live with saying you can't coach effort. So I'll say it for her. You cannot, at some extent, you cannot coach people to be rebounders. You just have to decide to do it. But if this team cannot rebound with some of the issues that they've had in scoring at times from Skylar Diggins-Smith, they're going to be in trouble.
They are going to be in big trouble. And I think that's what we're seeing with the fluctuation these first games. The Storm struggled against teams that they should not have struggled against. They lost in the paint. They lost in rebounds. And we have praised and highlighted the loaded front court so much that that's not something you would expect. Right. You would expect and hope that this team would be dominating the league in points in the paint and rebounds, but we're not seeing that. And now more than ever, we're seeing the backcourt take the league. And it does seem like, as much as I hate saying that, it seems like an effort thing, sometimes even a motivation thing. Watching the games, especially watching the home games at the arena, there are moments when it feels like the team is not there. There are moments when it seems like they are disconnected, and even on defense, you see, players just lie down the red carpet for them. We're seeing that happen a lot. So that does bring up the question. There are two things that I ask myself when I watch this team. Is that lack of motivation, or is there some sort of leftover fatigue from last season and from everything, because the talk is that the vibes are good, that the team is very well in synchrony, but there are some lapses in both defense and offense that are just hard to explain. And on the defensive end, the things that I have seen, they do seem like effort issues. Like you're defending and you don't really move. You don't really put your arms up. That has been happening a lot, and for me, it is concerning because this team is made of basketball players who are known for their defense. You
Right.
have all defensive team players. You have, defensive player of the year candidates. I feel like we're seeing the most effort from Gabby Williams and Erica Wheeler when it comes to effort. I feel that Gabby and Erica are the ones that are leading the team with that. And then I do see Skylar coming right after. But there needs to be more of that. And you
Agreed.
mentioned Ezzy. I don't know if we're ready to talk about her, but
Yeah, let's do it.
it's been kind of rough to watch Ezzy. You don't really recognize her.
No, she's getting lost.
Which for me, again, questions that are raised. She has been nonstop for
Yep.
years.
Yep.
I
That's
think
true.
if there's one player that fatigue is a very fair response, I think that player is Azzy McBegor. She has played for the Storm, gone overseas, back to the Storm, Olympics, overseas, back to the Storm.
Yep.
From day one of camp. Azzy McBegor has been on a wild run of work. And she is being tossed around on the court. Players are being really rough on her. She is torn. She is like tossed a lot. You see her falling a lot. I cannot imagine how much pain she has been feeling. So for me, it's not a matter of did she not evolve in her basketball. I think it's a matter of that girl needs a break.
I
Because
mean,
that's my view on it.
that sounds completely reasonable. And I would agree with you. I said this about Benajelani Hamilton before she got injured, but like that child needed some rest. And then we saw ends up getting injured.
And she injured.
I completely agree with what you're saying with Ezzy. And what I would add to this conversation, and we've said this in our Slack channel, is that's where the in theory, theoretical demerits, that's not really the word I was looking for. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. But the downside, the deficiencies to the coaching staff potentially and the front office construction of this team, they become evidently clear. Because we talked about Li Yueru. If Ezzy McBegor needs rest, which sometimes you can't work through a slump, sometimes you need to sit your butt down.
Yeah.
Everyone can see that Ezzy is, as Tulip is saying, stagnating.
Mm-hmm.
We can all see it. Whether it's confidence, whether it's fatigue, she's not working through it at this time. Yeah. So maybe there's a number 2 overall pick or a Chinese national team player that you have on your bench that you can give some of Ezzy's minutes to. And sure, is Ezzy going to want to not play or not start or have fewer minutes? No, but that's when you have to, as a coaching staff, as a team, be able to have that conversation. And maybe you draw a line and you say, listen, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah.
We're thinking we need to give you some rest. If Ezzy is like, no, I'm good, then you set a hard deadline. You set hard metrics. And it's like, we believe in you. We are always going to support you. If you're saying you're good, we're going to trust you. At some point, though, you have to take that out of the hands of the athlete for the sake of their future career and for the sake of the here and now of your team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when we're talking about Ezzy, who is still a very young player. And so if she rests a few games or if she just doesn't start a few games, that's okay. It's not about if she's good, if she's reliable. It's about being a person. And
Exactly.
again, that's my assessment of the situation, because we saw Ezzy in during EuroLeague, right? She was EuroLeague champions, which is one of the hardest championships to win.
Right.
So you see her, and her team beat Gabby's team, which was not expected at all. ACAT was the projected winner. So
just for those.
Yeah. So it's not Ekaterinburg,
Fenerbahce.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a Turkish team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's Fener. So Ekat is
people who don't know.
Yeah, Ekaterinburg is Russian.
Yes.
Really good 2000s teams. So I think that Ezzy could use some rest also to think about her future. We saw what happened to Benaja Laney. We're seeing so many injuries. We don't want to get to that point. Like, you don't want Ezzy, you don't want Ezzy to get injured. And she has always been such a solid player all around. I think that, some rest wouldn't hurt her.
Right. Not to mention, we're not going to get into too much on this. It was part of our halftime, but we're going to skip on through because we had a very heavy first quarter. We've heard recently Satu Sabali, who Phoenix played Seattle recently. She talked about how this schedule is redonkulous. Remember, there are more games in this schedule. It is a condensed schedule coming off of a season that was condensed because it was an Olympic year last year. We're going to have another World Cup coming up. Yep. So everything that you're saying about rest and fatigue for a player like Ezzy, who hits all of the buckets, shout out to Ally, all of the buckets that I just mentioned, that makes complete sense. And and I want to get to this comment from Tulip, the question for the panel. Prior to the season, Ezzy, would have been a lock for Seattle Core 2026, but now it's looking like Gabby. Panel, question mark? Listen, we talked about this, and when it looked like Malunga was the choice, even before Olivia Miles did not come out and stayed in the NCAA and transferred to TCU. The TCU?
Yes. Why is everyone going to TCU? That's
I know.
crazy.
Anyway, but so anyway, transferred. I have said this. I said that Ezzy could use in a healthy way the competition that would naturally come by Dominique Malunga being on this team.
Yeah.
Because we have said Ezzy has this and needs to unleash this beast that is inside of her that dropped 30 points for Australia for them to win the women's medal. Well, that's the Ezzy that we need to see in Seattle.
Yeah, because we saw that Ezzy for Australia and we saw that Ezzy for in EuroLeague, but we're not seeing that Ezzy at the Seattle Storm.
And, Donovan's saying that she's been disappointing, but notice that she's regressed overseas. I think this goes, Roberta, to what you were saying. I think, Donovan, some of the things that you're saying here, it suggests that what Roberta is saying about rest could be a salient argument. I told New York Liberty fans in 2023, Stewie was looking great. And if we don't give her rest, we're not going to see that Brianna Stewart at the end of the next year, let alone at the end of the season. And guess who was right? Hey, girl.
Come on. And we're talking, when you look at those free throw numbers, 28%.
Yep.
Free throw is like,
it's a time to catch your breath.
It's like if a player is missing free throws that bad, it's not about their ability to shoot free throws. It's because they are tired.
Gassed.
Like, how do players
physically, like you just stand there and you get as much time as you want.
Yeah, and why do players practice free throws after runs at the end of practices? Because you're supposed to practice free throws tired.
Yes.
Free throws are are very mental.
Yes.
That's a big. There's this player, Oscar, who a Brazilian player. He said that free throw is like 80% mental. It's 80% about how your body is feeling, because a player can shoot a free throw with their eyes closed. That's like, it's right there. And we're not talking about like 60%. We're not talking about a 50%. We're talking about 28%
Sub 30.
in free throws. We were talking about Jules' 30-something field goal. Now we're talking about a 28% free throw. For me, that's an indication of something else.
Yes, I would agree.
That's what my assessment is.
And these are not, someone mentioned Breanna Stewart. Y'all love talking about it. Listen, these are not high duress free throws, right? With a game on the line, with a championship on the line, with an Olympic medal on the line. These are regular season games. You know, like regular. I love saying regular. It's one of my favorite things to say, to just add a little spice and emphasis to something. Regular. You know, a little sazon, a little flavor. Sabor. Anyway, yeah, it's a problem. The fatigue is here, and this is again where the conservative approach that appears to be what's happening in Seattle is puzzling. Give Ezzy rest. While you still have Li, while you can incorporate Dom, give her rest. Give her rest.
I agree. For me, that's my, like, I am not going to make any assumptions about whatever else could be happening. And honestly, I haven't heard anything negative about, locker room. All negative I've heard personal, is exactly. All that I've heard is very positive about the locker room, the vibes, the leadership. It seems like on that end things are going well, and a player can be tired. It's okay to be tired. It's called being a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want Ezzy to succeed.
Someone who, though, may not be human as we roll into our third quarter. Gabby Williams. Nope.
She's not human. She's an alien. Come on. What? I'm so glad that we're having full season Gabby Williams.
Agreed.
And I know that people doubted her. Just gonna go on record and say I never doubted her. No. I have always been a Gabby believer.
Gabby believer.
Gabby believer. I've always been a Gabby believer. I think that she just needed time in the league, which is what she's getting. Yeah. I think that she needed a team where she would have a very prominent role. Yep. I want to highlight, and let me just open my notes back here because numbers are not easy. So Gabby Williams is shooting 48.9% from three. 51.5% in general. That's her highest average for both. Now, when you look at her totals, she has 22 3-points made on 45 attempts in 9 games. That's already more than in the 10 games that she played in 2023. So in 2023, she played 10 games, attempted 23 3-pointers, made 5. She has improved greatly. And, I will say that that's due to her overseas time. I would say that is due to her having a key role in her overseas teams and her national team. She has gained so much confidence, and she embraced the responsibility of being the player that a team relies on, and she is doing that. In the last press conference, people were asking about Gabby, and in the end, Skylar Diggins said, Gabby Williams is really good at basketball, y'all. Gabby Williams is really good at basketball, and I think that
Very.
people didn't really pay attention because she has always prioritized herself, and she did play more time overseas than in the WNBA the past years. So I think that people kind of took her for granted, and they are starting to get that, refresh their reminder of who Gabby Williams is.
Right.
I asked her about the 3-pointer. I asked her if that was something that she knew that was going to happen, if she knew that she was going to have a bigger role from beyond the arc. She said that she came in knowing that that was an area that the Storm needed support on, and she credited her efficiency on how the guards are placing her. Sorry, not the guards, on how the team is placing her. She said that she has been receiving the ball in really good positions, which has worked really well on her favor.
And that's something that was a little bit of a struggle when she came to the mid-season last year.
Yeah.
And it was something that we talked about, and that Noelle Quinn talked about, because it became evidently clear that for a team that wasn't creating options for her, she was making them for herself.
Yeah.
And those were necessary things. Gabby Williams getting points for this team is necessary. She is not just what she has sometimes been categorized as, which I never believed, but she's not just a defensive threat. She can be a very well-rounded, the term athleticism is overused, especially for Black women, I will say, Gabby Williams is extremely athletic.
Yes, she is. She is the epitome of athleticism. And she's doing so well, both on the defensive and both on defense and defense. She's having the time to do that. But I think that seeing her thrive as a shooter is really good, and I think that's the one thing that was missing for her WNBA longevity, because she had to stay away for so much time for injury, for commitments to the national team, that now she's finally being able to leave her mark as a shooter in the WNBA.
Yeah, I would agree. We definitely, I should say, Gabby definitely deserves more time than we gave her on today's episode, but don't worry, we will get into how she is faring this season, because she's such a prominent piece of what's working well for Seattle right now. But we do want to get into our fourth quarter. I starred some comments that have been coming in. We've been answering comments in the queue for a while, or questions, but I want to get to some specific ones before we hop out of here. Tulip panel, that's us. That's you and me, Roberta. I've not been able to watch every game. How has Zaya Cook been looking? W standard or just making up the numbers? I want to go to you first for this, Roberta.
I love that question, because Zaya Cook has been one of my favorite surprises in the Seattle Storm this year. She's coming off the bench, bringing a lot of energy to the team. She is taking some very important shots and making them when the team needs them. She is currently at 3.8 points per game, which is kind of what you would expect from her.
Yeah, about.
But it's a little sneaky, because she has some games where she shoots more and she scores more, and that's always in key moments when you have either Skylar or Gabby on the bench, and then you get and Zaya Cook comes in and she hits the shots that she's supposed to hit. Right. And I think that has always been what was expected from her.
Right.
I was expecting more of that from Lexi Brown, but she hasn't really been playing. She hasn't been playing at all, almost.
Every time we mention Lexi, I just try to be nice. I mean, I never saw the vision, and that's why it really just it puzzles me, because it's not fair to Lexi necessarily. I mean, she came over, that was a trade, right?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
comes
It's not
over.
working well.
I mean, but I didn't expect it to. And so, I mean, that's tough. It's tough breaks for Lexi. It just wasn't going to fit. And that's too bad because they could use someone who plays Brown's position. But Lexi at this time, you know, if you were to ask this question, Tulip, that we just had on here earlier, if you asked the same question that you asked about Zaya Cook, about Lexi Brown, completely different answer, I think. Because I wasn't
completely. Yeah.
expecting much from Lexi Brown.
Me neither.
I just wasn't.
Zaya Cook. Yeah.
I will say that what you said about Zaya Cook, we've been getting that from Erica Wheeler and then some. I will be
She has been so good.
honest. I undersold, and I hate this. It's like Erica on Erica crime. I undersold the value added of Erica, and I apologize.
I've always stood.
You did.
Yep.
You did. I
Yep.
was wrong. I was wrong. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I was wrong. I was like, maybe kind of, sort of, but I'm not sure. But that brings me to, this is ruthless, but I'm gonna put it up here.
Ooh.
And actually, ruthless is in here. Do you think that the Storm will be ruthless at some point and cut AC during the season if she doesn't improve her production, or will they keep her no matter what due to her history with the team? Here's what I'll say before I go to you, Roberta. Love AC as a human being. Nothing but great things have I ever heard, and I appreciate what she does out there. As a basketball player in the WNBA, she has more than shown her value and worth, even while being underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
What I will also say, and we've talked about this, I do not understand the contract that she got. And at this juncture, even though I thought it was questionable to sign her at that much, it's looking really bad right now.
It is not looking good at all. And we asked on Media Day, what was her role supposed to be with the team. And she said that Noelle Quinn was expecting her to be more of like an aggressive player and make her own shots. We are not seeing that. We have seen some threes from her. She is good. She is a good defender. Okay. Marina Mabry wants out of Connecticut Center.
Oh, are you dropping a hypothetical, hear me out kind of vibe?
Yes.
Oh,
I've had the Marina Mabry to the Storm agenda from the get-go. So I have here, shout out her hoop stats, always saving our lives. So Alicia Clark is at 188,500. Marina Mabry is at 210,000, right? So if you drop Alicia Clark, you trade Li Yueru for another like more bench player, you would have the money for Marina Mabry.
Ooh.
That's it. I am pushing this agenda.
Wow. Let us know in the chat.
I am pushing the Marina Mabry. Yeah.
I am pushing money to hear this.
That is, her points would be welcomed by the team.
Yep.
Her effort.
Yep.
Her attitude. I feel like the Storm needs some more of that. Man, Skylar Diggins, when she shot that three and just went to the other side like this, doing the crazy sign, and she waited for the other place to get close to her and did it again.
Oh my
just so the player could see it. And then she started when she hit another three, and she just started like hitting, who am I? And then she just, after she had high-fived that one, she yelled to the void, who am I?
I love it. And
Listen,
Marina
I love
is
that
gonna match
energy.
that energy. And you're right. This Seattle Storm team, we've talked about this. You know, I talk about this all the time. Like, y'all too polite.
They have always been too soft. I'll say it. They
Soft.
were always too soft. Way too soft. Way
Now,
too soft.
Aloysius is asking, will Connecticut make if I'm Connecticut, I make that deal.
Yeah. I mean,
what do they
bring
have?
AC? Yeah, exactly.
More games?
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you first off, are you into the whole stud buds?
I have been. Damn. Is that where you're going?
No. Like, did you watch
I haven't
thing?
ever watched the full thing. What happened?
It's hilarious. Courtney Williams.
When Mabry was
What?
on, you mean?
No. When Dijonay came.
I saw recently she was on,
Yeah, because the wings are 1.8, and so Courtney Williams was like, "Who'd you beat?" And I think they asked the Chicago, and someone was like, "The Chicago Sky," and Marina and Dijonay said the Connecticut Sun, and then Courtney was like, "You didn't beat the Chicago Sky."
Oh my God.
So yeah, like the Dallas Wings beat the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah.
Bring Marina in. I think she can play the two. Like,
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that.
I mean, because
like,
what is she? Yeah, she might be better.
She's a guard. Yeah, like she's scoring 70.4. Yeah, she's like 17.4 per game.
And that's the thing. Like, yeah, Mabry to Storm would be OD. Even if it is, the Storm need OD. Like I don't think it's OD. And if it is, yes.
Then Tyler and Marina together.
Come on, like
bring that Notre Dame.
They need another
guard college.
Yeah, exactly. You say Marina Mabry to the Storm would be OD. Then you say they need another scorer. Well, Mabry's a scorer, so.
Yeah, maybe she just dropped a 30 piece. Like,
and I don't think the Storm gets ruthless like that with AC. That's probably the piece that I agree with most. And that goes back to being too polite, too nice. And yes, I've been starting to critique more openly the front office moves because some of these moves just don't make sense.
Yeah.
The AC contract being one of them. Now, is this an organization ready to get on the right track? Because they said this isn't, they have every team is going to say, right, they have championship aspirations. But, the goal was to make this team competitive this season. And I just think that they have more work to do. And I love Alicia Clark. I just don't think that her return to Seattle is going well. And that is just a fit thing. She's not able to contribute in the way that the Seattle Storm need her to. And I saw the things, and this is always what AC is good at. She does the little things that don't show up. That's always true. And I honor and respect that. And if we're keeping it a buck, some of the things that have gone quote unquote unnoticed are noticeable, but for the opposite reason, because she's not doing the unnoticeable things well. She's doing the unnoticeable things not well, which makes them noticeable. And that's never what you want as someone who has hung a career on defense. If people are noticing your defense, it's either off the charts redonkulous or it's kind of not great.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing, like when you're making 185,000,
Oh, okay. Just a correction. Thank you, Brash. OD as in yes, do it. Okay. I didn't know if you meant like OD, like it's overkill, like don't do it. Okay. Then we're on the same page. Okay. I just want to make sure. Sorry.
Yeah. So like she's scoring 4.3 in 23 minutes. And then you have Erica Wheeler, who is scoring 9.8 in 22 minutes, and she makes way less. She makes over 100,000 less than Alicia Clark. So I think there were some expectations about Clark that did not come to fruition.
Yeah, and I just don't know. I never really liked that contract. I love AC back to Seattle, and asking for that much on a team where you really theoretically shouldn't have to never made sense to me. The spike. AC is the only unprotected contract. Now you talk about Li Yueru here. We talked about that earlier. Li is really is not a contract that it sounds like the Storm is going to be able to keep. Whether they want to keep it or not, she has requested a trade, and that's heavy pressure coming from the Chinese Federation there. So that that seems a little bit out of the control. But if you are going to trade her and you do want to honor that request, which I guess technically they don't have to, and then Lee could just opt not to play, you know, she could kind of ice them out in that way. This is an opportunity for the Seattle Storm in this season with Li Yueru and maybe moving or offloading AC's contract. It's an opportunity for them to right the ship this season and be in an even better position to be a contender. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, me too.
Why would the org say, you know what, forget one problem and let's take two? Nobody will give assets for Lee like that when she is a trade request merchant. Well, you know,
again, it's not her fault. Like,
yeah,
I think that if expectations are aligned, Lee is a very important asset. I think that it would have to be a team that's going to agree to make her potentially a starter or guaranteed 20+ minutes, I would say. Yeah. And I think there are teams that would be willing to do that. You know, the Valkyries, Connecticut. I think that
reported that earlier.
The maybe even Dallas Wings, like they already have like big posts. But
with Dallas,
Washington Mystics.
They got a great rookie core. I say, you know, so I don't know. I want to get to this one. Moni left this before she had to bounce. Once again,
PG by committee.
Stop playing PG point guard by committee. Skylar needs to be the main PG. I agree with that. I like Erica starting at the 2. That's fine with me as well. If you get Marina Mabry, you don't necessarily need Erica Wheeler to start at the 2. You could have her come off of the bench. Maybe you still keep her as a starter. I don't know, though, that if you're bringing in Mabry at that contract, you don't start her, which is a whole nother thing. But I think it would be okay if you bring in Mabry to have Wheeler play the role that, if we're keeping it a buck, she was likely going to play anyway. And I don't think
more people to the Marina Mabry agenda.
I don't think you lose in that situation. So anyway, wanted to get Moni's comment in there. Let's see what else as we start closing it out. This was just funny from earlier. Make sure you don't use any profanity or Jewel will report your live stream. Y'all are ruthless. Y'all are so
Tulip, I appreciate your ruthlessness. I like someone. I like, you know, someone who can throw a punch. That's
I
cool.
agree. We like
I really like that. Yeah.
Picante, as I like to say. Tulip replying to Donovan, this roster is not a championship level. I agree. Right now, they're not playing at championship level. Is there championship potential? Perhaps. And if the Storm wants to win now, they will have to give up a pick or 2. And I agree with that. So, Tulip saying, I say it. We love we love
British, 2 Latinas, and one of them a native New Yorker. So
lots of spice over here. Well, all right, folks, we've kept you for an hour and 33 minutes and counting. We're going to wrap up today's episode. We went deep in the paint on the Li Yueru, but more so the investigation. I was like, oh, we'll put that second because we don't have to talk about it. And then I go on like 5 different rants. But always a pleasure, Roberta, to talk WNBA and Seattle Storm with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everyone who came through. We got Brash, The Spike, Tulip, of course, Moni, and Leslie stopped through. Donovan, Aloysius always coming through. We appreciate y'all so much. And make sure you stop in for our next episode. If you're not already, subscribe to Black Rosie Media. on YouTube because you will get the notifications. And thank you for your patience. We did have to adjust the schedule this past week because of my assignments for the Women's College World Series, which was a lot of fun. But we will be back next week. But Roberta, before we head out of here, anything fun that you're working on that you want to share with the class?
I'm writing a story on WNBA and Pride for Forbes, and I just got a really cool pitch approved by my Forbes editor, which is a profile piece on Erica Wheeler. So I am excited about that. She's a player who I've been following since before she got to the W, and I always knew about her potential and what she adds to a team, and it's really good to see that happening. Plus, she has an amazing personality. She is someone who is authentically herself, that I think that her and Skylar Diggins-Smith working together has been really good. I really like that. So yeah, I want to write that story about her because she's a player that I admire on and off the court.
I love it. Cannot wait for that. Love the work that you're doing over at Forbes and elsewhere. As for me, I'm back in headquarters. You'll start to see a little bit of a change because we're going to be moving headquarters. So just keep an eye out for that. But for me, I will be on with the We Need to Talk Now podcast. So Alicia J over at CBS Sports. We're going to talk about the week that was in women's sports. And then, of course, talk about what is to come. Sky got absolutely pounded by the Indiana Fever. We're expecting Caitlin Clark to come back soon. Really hoping all is well with Courtney Vandersloot. I haven't seen since we started recording if there was any update, but a non-contact injury, you hate to see it. So hopefully she's all right. But I will be on We Need to Talk Now. We are going to do a live stream because obviously I love them. A live stream at 5:30 Eastern time.
That's really cool.
So check it out. I'll make sure to post it. And if, of course, in our Slack community, if you're not already a part of that, make sure you join up there. And then as far as me, I have a story in the queue. I've done some reporting about Megan Gustafson has her first ever.
Oh, I like that.
So we're going to talk about that. She's still injured, but Megan Gustafson, a children's book and the inspiration behind it. Of course, Pancake is prominently featured. And then also Sarah Ashley Barker, rookie for the LA Sparks, thrown into that starting lineup. What has that been like for her? What are some of her veterans saying, her coach saying about her? And what was her take on the viral moment where Kelsey Plum revealed the 6 different colorways of Sabrina's? I got to talk to her about that. So we have that coming up over at CBS Sports. But for Roberta Rodriguez, my name, Erica L. Ayala. You have been joining us once again for Tempestade Talk, and we will catch you once again right here on the live stream. We should be set for Wednesday, but just keep an eye and an ear. We will have that covered. Thank you all again for joining us. Take care, and we will catch you soon. Yes, SAB Tulip. You're not going to want to miss that feature. SAB. All right. Take care. We'll catch you on the next episode.